Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started here in just another minute or two as people start coming in. In the meanwhile, if folks want to go ahead as they're coming in here, make sure to rename yourself to have your name and organization that you're with, just so that way I can, hopefully keep tabs, so I can kind of help keep track of who's here. Because I recognize some of your faces, but unfortunately not everyone. So you can go ahead and do that by kind of scrolling over. If you find the images, you can find your name, and there's going to be like 3 little dots in the top right corner, and you'll have the option to rename. You can also do that through the little option at the bottom that says participants. You click that, you'll find your name again, and you'll hit more, and then you'll be able to rename yourself from there. Either way, whichever works best for you. But we should get started here in just another minute, just so I get some time for everyone to get settled in, get your coffee, tea, water, whatever it may be. Hopefully the wind has died down enough today for a smooth workshop. All right, well, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get us started with some housekeeping as other people kind of slowly follow in. So for those who don't know me, my name is Melissa. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the programs coordinator here at the Community Foundation of South Puget Sound. I am really excited for today's workshop. It is the final workshop in our series of nonprofit workshops that we were offering in 2020. If you missed any workshops and you wanted to review them, we have been recording all of them, and materials can be found on our website at thecommunityfoundation.com. Under the Give Local tab, there will be an option that says Give Local Toolkit, and in the toolkit there will be workshop materials, and that is where you can find all of the recordings. You can also find them on our Give Local website, spsgives.org, under workshops. That way you can go ahead and view everything that we have been able to put out this year. It's been a really exciting year. And just a heads up, like I said, all the other ones have been recorded, and this one is as well. If you are uncomfortable with having your video showing or having your voice on audio, you can feel free to go ahead and turn off your video or turn off your audio, so that way, we can keep everything confidential based on your preference. And we won't be sharing any of the chat information. So if you do put stuff in the chat box, which we encourage you to do so, that will not be shared. So that is the safest way to, kind of remain anonymous if you are uncomfortable. You can go ahead and hopefully put questions in the chat box, put any comments that you might have. This is a great time to, maybe communicate with some of the other attendees today and connect with each other. And so without further ado, that is all the housekeeping I have. I want to go ahead and pass everything over to our presenters today from Three Girls Media. I'm really excited. We have Shanae and Erika. Thanks so much for coming today.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, Melissa, and good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many people here today, and we're looking forward to our third and final workshop and imparting some education regarding the top 10 organic social media strategies. We're going to cover not only that, but a few key tips about the largest social media platforms and how you can determine whether or not your organization is best on them or not, and other interesting tidbits as well. So Shanae, let's get started. So first, a little bit about the two of us. My name's Erika Taylor Montgomery, and I'm the CEO of Three Girls Media. My original career before I embarked in broadcast, or before I embarked in PR and marketing, was in broadcasting. I was on air in San Francisco for over 25 years. And then I did some work for a Silicon Valley PR firm as their director of media relations, eventually became the press secretary for the California State Legislature. And when I finally couldn't stomach politics anymore, I decided to forge out on my own and start Three Girls Media. And that was in 2005. So we are a little over 15 years old now and going strong. And Shanae is our Senior Director of Marketing and PR, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shanae. I am the Senior Director of Marketing and PR, like Erika said. I got my degree in digital journalism and then worked as a small town reporter for a little over a year, covering things like government, the county court system, and the local university. And then when I moved over to the west side of Washington, I entered into the marketing industry, and the rest is kind of history.
Great, thanks, Shanae. So a little bit about Three Girls Media and who we are and what we do. We are a full-service marketing and public relations agency, and we are headquartered in Yelm, which is about 20 minutes south of Olympia. And we offer all kinds of services for small businesses, nonprofits, mid-sized businesses, including content marketing. We do blogging for search engine optimization. We do public and media relations. We offer all kinds of customized quality marketing. We do website design and build, strategic social media management, graphic design, and a lot more. So we have a lot of capabilities. We love working with nonprofits and have worked with many, many nonprofit organizations over our last 15 plus years in business.
Okay, so today we'll be sharing some information about how to choose the right platforms to utilize for your nonprofit, some information about each platform, as well as the top 10 organic social media strategies for nonprofits.
And let's talk a little bit about platforms themselves. So when you're considering which social media platform to use, a lot of people think that they have to be everywhere, that your organization needs to be on every social media platform. And it's simply not the case. You need to decide strategically where you want to be and then really focus your efforts on managing those platforms well. So you can start by asking yourself these three questions. Number one, who is your target audience? Which social media platforms do they use? And then how much time is involved in managing those social media platforms? Not all social platforms are created equal. Some take much longer to manage, like Instagram, for example, that's an image or video-based platform where you need to have the graphics and you need to use up to 30 hashtags per post to really generate visibility, as opposed to something like Twitter, where you can just post a sentence or two and a few hashtags and you're done. So timing and your capabilities of being able to manage the platforms well should really factor in to your decision when you're trying to decide which social media platforms you should focus on for your particular organization.
Now, let's talk a little bit about each social media platform and the pros and cons of each.
So Facebook is the 20,000-pound gorilla of social media. It is the largest social media platform by far. In fact, it is larger than all the other social media platforms combined. There are 2.5 billion users every month on Facebook, and that makes it really perfect for sharing your cause with current or potential supporters. And there is such a thing as nonprofit on Facebook features. Now, nonprofits do need to qualify for nonprofits on Facebook features, but once you do, your page can really be a voice for your cause. And along with use, and you've also got some useful fundraising tools that you can use as well. And so if you'd like more information about how to qualify for Facebook for nonprofits, you can go to the Facebook Help Center, and it's going to tell you all about their donating buttons, their pledge match donations, their fundraising tools for supporters, and donation reporting features, which are really, really helpful for organizations trying to raise funds on Facebook. And the other nice thing about Facebook is that it's a very flexible platform. So organizations can share all kinds of valuable content about their mission. You can share videos, you can promote events, you can even facilitate a group page where fellow supporters can interact with each other. So it's a very broad platform that has a lot of capabilities for your nonprofit.
Right, so let's talk a little bit about Twitter. Twitter is primarily a news sharing platform, and one of the benefits of Twitter is the ability to quickly have conversations with supporters. And because of the ability to share timely news or on the ground updates, videos, photos of kind of recent events, Twitter goes a long way to amplify your message. A couple facts about Twitter are that there are 326 million people on Twitter every month. 72% of users who use Twitter say they get their news from the platform, and tweets with videos attract 10 times the engagement of those without. One thing that we would recommend is before you get started with Twitter, make sure you review how other nonprofits are using the platform and how they're generating and leveraging content. When developing a content strategy, it's important to keep in mind that visuals with your branding are going to be one of the ways to really make sure you're utilizing this platform to its fullest extent. And photos and graphics can really boost engagement for your tweets as well. We would also recommend that you take the time to understand Twitter's features, as it's a little bit different from things, other platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn. On Twitter, you have a max of 280 characters per post, which means you really need to make sure that everything you're posting is of value and that you're getting the most information in those short posts as possible. They also have things like follower lists, shortened links, tagging, Twitter alerts, and Twitter analytics. So you want to make sure you're really spending some time and investing in Twitter and making sure you understand how it works before you get started. The other thing about Twitter is it's the birthplace of hashtags. And as a result, Twitter has made their hashtags extremely searchable. So users can use these hashtags to search for articles or opinions with just a couple clicks. So careful hashtag research has the potential to yield really fantastic results when you use this platform.
Great. Let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn now. Now, because LinkedIn was designed for industry professionals in the business community, a lot of nonprofits overlook its usefulness for gaining support for your cause. But when using the social platform, it's a good idea to really keep your language professional and informative. So no super casual language or excessive use of exclamation points. You can do things like share statistics and pictures and videos to demonstrate how your nonprofit is helping your cause, as well as how businesses and professionals can be involved, maybe by volunteering or giving donations. And you can also seek out partnerships with corporations or businesses. And when those are established, LinkedIn is the perfect platform to highlight how your nonprofit successfully co-brands messaging to enhance your credibility further. So LinkedIn has 610 million users in more than 200 countries. So it's great if you want to have a bit of an international push for your nonprofit in the business community. You can also establish credibility and gain corporate support here. That's the primary reason for using LinkedIn. And you can use LinkedIn to make and maintain new connections. You could reach potential volunteers or employees. You can increase donor support. You can garner corporate funding and show business leaders that you're really a trustworthy nonprofit partner for them to be engaged with.
Alrighty, so the last of the social media platforms that we're going to be talking about today is Instagram. So Instagram is very much a visual marketing platform. It's also important to remember that the Instagram audience is much younger than the audience on LinkedIn or Facebook. Generally speaking, millennials make up 35% of users, and a large demographic of users is also Gen Z. So these are going to be anywhere from teenagers to kind of mid-20s, young adult sort of users. There are 1 billion monthly users worldwide, and you really want to be using eye-catching photos to entice followers on this platform. A couple other facts include that 50 million people open Instagram stories and Instagram Explore every month. And despite the fact that this is a very young platform, users are broken down to about 50-50 men and women. So it's a great platform to engage both. The last thing we want to make sure to share with you regarding content on Instagram is that video content has a much better engagement than photos and the highest engagement overall. So as we mentioned before, Instagram is kind of a high, you need to be putting a lot of time and effort into Instagram because you need photos or graphics with every post. And to go even further beyond, you want to be including video content, which again is going to be something that you're going to need to spend some time on. Additionally, as we said, images, video, and stories are a huge part of Instagram marketing, but they don't always have to focus on the positive. They can include hardships, so things that your demographic or the people you support through your nonprofit are going through. You can ask thought-provoking questions and kind of get people involved through gripping stories or other content that's really going to bring people in and get them engaged with your nonprofit. We would also say that with each post, you want to be adding thoughtful or inspiring captions. You want to make sure that you're not just posting a photo and kind of leaving it as that. And then you want to be using up to 30 hashtags. We would recommend between 25 and 30, so at least 25 and no more than 30. For this reason, we also recommend that when you get started on Instagram, you do some hashtag research and you build up a list of between 70 and 100 hashtags for use on the platform. The main reason for this is because if you're using the same hashtags every single day, Instagram will look at that as spam and they can actually do something called a shadow ban. And when they shadow ban your profile, it means that no one is going to see your content in either the search functionality or on their news feed. So in order to avoid that, you need to be switching up your use of hashtags and make sure you're not repeating day to day or post to post.
And there are some great tools that you can use for hashtag research. One of them is allhashtags.com. And there are other ones you can certainly find in Google that are free and very easy to use. All right, so let's dive into some social media strategies today. We are going to talk a little bit about how organic social media works.
Alrighty, so one thing that we want to share right off the bat is SEO, and SEO is search engine optimization, and it's essentially any strategy or method used to drive traffic to specific web pages through search terms typed into search engines. So that's something like a user going to Google and putting in a specific search term in order to find content. So for social media, they've really adapted its own form of SEO. So there's a couple different tactics you want to use to make sure that your social media is as engaging as possible. You can do this through promoting a positive user experience. You also want to make sure that you keep in mind the algorithm initially will only put your posts into a pool as small as 1% of your followers. if those people engage with the content, then it gets introduced to a larger pool. So over time, slowly but surely, more and more people see it, but that's only if your content is engaging and if it really resonates with your audience.
Okay, so now we're going to dive into those top 10 organic social media strategies. And as I mentioned, most businesses assume that you need to have a presence on everything from Facebook to Pinterest, but that is absolutely not the case. Your audience may not have a presence on every social media platform, so why waste your energy? Choosing which network to focus on is really easier than you think. You can simply ask your audience where they live. So you can put out a survey and ask your audience, which social media platforms do you use? You can put it in an email. If you've got phone calls with supporters, you can always include in the conversation asking them which social media platforms they use. And that's just a few of the ways that you can reach out to your audience and find out for sure where they are, so you can really strategically focus your energy on those particular platforms. And then some other strategies to find your audience, including looking at share counts on your blog or website. If you have a blog, you should be using share buttons already. And many of these tools offer analytics that show who's sharing your content and, more importantly, where they're sharing their content. And you can really just follow the numbers to figure out which platforms to focus on. And then lastly, it's a great idea to take a look at your competitors. What are other organizations in your particular mission area posting? Where are they on social media? And if you don't see them on a particular platform, odds are that you don't need to be there either.
Alrighty, so strategy number 2, optimizing your social media platforms. So this goes back to what we were talking about with SEO before, and you want to make sure that your profiles are as optimized and as possible for your audience. So some of these SEO tactics can include making sure you're using an easy to remember username. You want to make sure your username is the same platform to platform, especially if you have a longer or harder to remember name for your nonprofit. If you have different names on each social media platform, it's really going to create confusion for your audience. Another tactic you can use is using a recognizable photo or brand logo for your display pictures. And again, it's really important to use the same photo or brand logo for each of your social media profiles. If you use a different one and for each platform, or a different one for one platform in particular, if your audience goes to look for you there, they may get confused and not think that that profile is indeed your official profile. You also want to be using keyword-rich descriptions that still sound natural. So using keywords within your industry or within your mission area, within not only your posts, but in your bios or about sections of your social media profiles, which will make it easier for your audience to find you if they're just doing something like a Google search or just searching generally throughout the social media platform. And finally, you want to make sure you're adding a trackable link back to your website on your social media platforms. And what this does is not only will it drive traffic to your website, but it'll allow you to get analytic data about how many people are going to your website from your social media platforms. And through that data, it can let you know which platforms are performing better and which ones are not going to be as useful for you.
Okay, great. So organic social media strategy number 3 is posting evergreen content. Now, creating evergreen content is one of those things that's easier said than done. So evergreen really means that it's good anytime. It doesn't have an expiration date. It's not time sensitive. And so a typical post on social media, especially giants like Twitter and Facebook, have a widely varied lifespan. And so your posts really need to be engaging. And some of the ways to do that is you can solve a common problem or persistent problems in your industry on your posts. You can post something that's educational or funny. Things like humor or shock and awe are great emotions to target with evergreen content. And it's a good idea to keep in mind that people share positive posts more than they share negative posts. So keeping things positive on a lot of social media platforms is generally a good idea. And then in terms of organic tip number 4, we want you to work smarter, not harder. So these facts are going to blow you away. The average Facebook user is actually subjected to over 1,500 stories per day. However, Facebook is only going to show you about 300 of those. And the way they choose those 300 are based on which ones are getting the most engagement and which ones are most relevant to you. So a lot of people think that I just have to post constantly, post all day, and that's the answer. It's definitely not the answer. Instead, it's better to focus on posting high quality content that's relevant to your particular mission, industry, and audience. So one way to look at this is quality over quantity. However, there are still optimal posting times and amounts for each social media platform. So if we look at Facebook, it's recommended we post 2 to 3 times per day. On LinkedIn, you should be posting 2 to 3 times per day. On Instagram, 1 to 2 times per day. And on Twitter, 3 to 5 times per day. And I'm seeing some faces drop on Zoom right now. So you're probably asking yourself, why in the world do I need to be posting 3 times a day on Facebook or 5 times a day on Twitter? And so I'm happy to explain. On each social media platform, there's something called a lifespan of a post. And a lifespan is simply how long a post lived in someone's news feed before it's so far down that it's simply not going to be seen anymore. And it's different for each social media platform. So on Facebook, the lifespan of a post on average is about 90 minutes. So that's why we recommend posting about 3 times a day. It's going to give your content the best chance for visibility with the most people. On Twitter is a difference that a lifespan is only about 30 minutes. So on Twitter, it's very, very short. Hence, we recommend posting up to 5 times a day because you need that so your content will be more visible to your audience. So posting less with higher quality is going to increase your organic reach more than spamming your page with everything you can get your hands on. But you still need to keep in mind these optimal posting times or amounts on each social media platform so you can reach the majority of your audience on any given day.
Alrighty, so strategy number 5, use targeting to maximize organic potential. So this is going to vary a bit platform to platform, but tweaking the settings of your post to target specific members of your audience can give you a real boost in your organic potential. So for Facebook specifically, you can use organic post targeting to tweak who will see it. So these include things like gender, relationship status, education level, age, location, language, interests, and then post end date. For Twitter, you can use hashtags to do a similar thing. And this will allow you to categorize your posts and will give you the opportunity to better target who your audience is going to be on the platform.
All right, so strategy number 6 for your best organic social media is to post during slow hours. Now, this may seem counterintuitive, but instead of posting during high traffic times when everyone's online and your content is going to get thrown into a hurricane of posts that people are seeing, you can wait until non-peak hours to post when you're less likely to get drowned out in all the noise. So these are generally the most effective off times to post. On Facebook, it's Thursdays and Fridays between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. On Twitter, it's weekdays between noon and 6 p.m. On LinkedIn, it's Tuesday through Thursday between both 7 and 8 a.m. and then again between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. And on Instagram, any weekday between 9 and 11 or again between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. in the afternoon. Now, that being said, you can look into the analytic data on your platforms for your particular audience if you can, and see when their most often off times are, when you're getting the fewest visitors to your page and that kind of thing. But these days and times that we've posted here on this slide are in general the most considered off times on social media when you may want to consider posting your content for higher visibility and less competition with other posts.
Alrighty, so strategies 7 and 8. 7 is to post the right types of content. And we've mentioned this a couple of times at this point, but video has the highest organic reach, not only on Facebook, where it's by 3%, but on most social media platforms. So you want to make sure that even though video has the highest organic reach, you do want to mix up the type of content you're posting. So you want to make sure you're also using images, normal status updates with text. You want to be including links, so either back to your website or articles or other nonprofits that maybe you have partnerships with in addition to videos. And with Facebook, you can use Facebook Insights to see which types of content are performing the best on your pages. For number 8, you want to be promoting your profiles. So that means that every place your business has an online presence, you should also be showcasing your social media platforms. So that's going to include your website, if you have a physical storefront, or if you have an online storefront, on your business cards, in your signature for emails, or pretty much anywhere else you can think of. You want to also consider adding follow buttons to your website for visitors to instantly follow or like your page without having to leave your blog or website, which will allow people to stay on your website longer and see more of your content. You can also cross-promote your social media profiles. So that means maybe turning your Facebook audience onto your Twitter profile as well, or kind of vice versa. Essentially, you just want your presence to be known everywhere, which will eventually grow your organic reach.
Great. Okay, so organic social media strategy number 9 is to use the right balance of posts. Now, this one can be tough because, of course, you want to promote your mission and you want to promote your services on social media. However, you can't always think about yourself and your organization. So one example that I love to use is a cocktail party example. If you were to go to a cocktail party and you ran into someone that only talked about themselves and they were full of themselves all night long, that would probably get pretty boring pretty quickly and you would lose interest really, really fast. So what we recommend is not being an example of that person at the cocktail party. Instead, we recommend that you follow what we call the 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule says that 80% of your content should be useful and helpful and interesting, while just 20% should be blatantly self-promotional. Now, don't forget that this variety should also include a mixture of videos, images, and other engaging content types. So for 80% of non-promotional content, you can share things like how-to guides, industry-related articles, you can share posts from other people, you can post your own new posts and maybe share some industry news or something like that. And then 20% of the time, you absolutely want to promote your organization and your mission. So you can do this by sharing testimonials. You can give a behind the scenes look at the organization. So that could include things like profiles of people who work in the office, you know, kind of get to know our team. You could show pictures of previous events or of your workplace and other kind of get to know us type content. And that 80% of the content that you're going to share that's non-promotional is what's really going to bring new followers and build trust. And then they'll see that 20% of promotional content and ultimately buy into what you're selling. Through the promotional content, followers are going to come to know you as an authority in your industry, and they're therefore going to trust you as a recommended organization, somebody that they might feel comfortable volunteering with or donating their time or finances.
Alrighty, last but definitely not least, our number 10 organic social media tip is to interact with and engage your followers. And like I said, this is definitely not the least important. In fact, I would say this is the most important tip that we have for you today. Organic social media is never easier than when people come directly to your page. If you genuinely engage with people and reply to their comments, you're going to build a much better reputation than if people respond to your posts and you never acknowledge that. People will look for your posts because they'll be genuinely interested in what you're doing, and forging that kind of bond is important in all aspects of your business. But for marketing, it can really create a viral effect and increase word of mouth spread regarding your industry, or excuse me, your organization. So once that spread happens, new members of your audience will come to your page and kind of see what you're doing. And as I said before, you want to be building these connections by genuinely engaging with people through comments, liking people's comments on your posts. And by doing so, you're going to go ahead and forge that bond and really become someone that your audience trusts and feels close to.
And one thing I can add to that is that you should really be checking engagement on your social media platforms on a daily basis. People generally respect responses on social media within a matter of hours. So if you're not checking for engagement on your social media platforms and seeing if people are commenting, liking, sharing, and then responding to them when they do, you're really missing out on a terrific opportunity to build a more tight-knit following, a more dedicated following, and to get people really behind your cause. So some final thoughts when it comes to organic social media. The secret is really the same secret as ranking well on search engines for your website. It's really all about optimization. It's about the user experience, and it's about sharing high quality content. So keep these things in mind. Recognize that the social media platforms have their own algorithms that they use to decide which content to show to people, and that your followers are only going to see a fraction of content that is available to them on social media every single day. So post at the optimal posting times, post that good mix of 80-20 content, and don't be overly self-promotional. Keep the user experience in mind by promoting a variety of types of content: articles, images, videos, graphics, all kinds of different variety, and keeping it high quality in general and making it really engaging. Try to put yourself in the shoes of your followers and the people you want to engage with, and ask yourself, is this content that they're going to find interesting, engaging, helpful, useful in some way, shape, or form? And if you keep all of these tips in mind, then it's a surefire win to grow your organic social media following. And the last bit of advice I can give you, and it's something we've talked about a couple of times today, is really taking a strategic look at which social media platforms you're engaging on. Your organization may already have pages on, 4 or 5 different social media platforms. But I really encourage you to ask yourself if you need to be on all of them. Chances are, if you really give it some critical thought, the answer is no. And one thing that we've learned over the years in working with nonprofit organizations is that manpower is generally very, very thin, and so are budgets. So you likely don't have a large marketing staff to manage your social media or a large budget to hire a company to manage it for you. And so be very, very strategic in where you're going to focus your time. I know it's scary to let go of a social media platform if you've already invested some time in it, but don't be afraid to take the leap and say, you know what, our audience really isn't on Twitter. We really don't need to be there, and to let the page go, and instead focus your efforts on Facebook and Instagram if that's where your audience is. So I know it's scary, but we encourage you to take the leap and really just focus on those few platforms that are really going to make a difference for your organization. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
This is Megan with Ticker. Question about letting go of a would you suggest that delete the page and shut it down, or just let it be pretty non-active?
I think that's a great question. And I would actually shut it down and let it go completely, delete the page. And the reason I recommend that is because there's nothing worse than going to a social media page and finding it inactive and that nobody's posted in the last 6 months or year or 2 years. And so it's better that you delete the page entirely and not have a presence on that particular platform than have people potentially coming to it in the future and not seeing any active content there and looking like the page is unmanaged and uncared for.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so a little bit about us and where you can find us online and how you can contact us if you've got questions that we won't be answering here in the next few minutes. But we've put our website address up here. It's 3girlsmedia.com, and you can check us out there. We've got an amazing blog with thousands and thousands of articles that are incredibly helpful to nonprofit organizations, and many of them are written specifically for nonprofits. So if you come to our blog and do a search in our little search window for nonprofits, you'll come up with all the articles that we've specifically written for nonprofit organizations that could be very helpful to you. And then this phone number up here, this 408-218-2391 phone number is my direct cell phone. So you can reach me directly at that number. This is also mine and Shanae's direct email addresses. And then Shanae and I also offer a complimentary 30-minute consultation. This is an opportunity where we can talk specifically about your organization, maybe that we don't have time to get into today, and we can really break things down for your organization specifically and talk about that and how we may be able to help you. So you can email us if you'd like to schedule one of those complimentary 30-minute consultations. And then this is where you can find us on social media. If you'd like to see how we're managing our pages, what kind of content we're sharing, and how we're getting the word out about 3 Girls Media. And so at this time, we want to open it up to other questions that you may have.
Yeah, we have
Whoa.
Oh no, you
know,
got it,
for it.
Jennifer. You got it. You got it.
Hi, this is Jen Capps from Mason Health, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on social media listening tools and which ones are industry standard or better than industry standard. We're using Hootsuite, and I want to get your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Sure. Hootsuite is great. That's what we use at Three Girls Media. There are others that are great as well. Sprout Social is another one that's commonly used, that's rather affordable for nonprofit organizations. And then you can get into some that are much more pricey, but have extreme capabilities. Things offered by an organization called Meltwater. There are also social media listening tools through another platform called Cision, C-I-S-I-O-N. But they're all, Cision and Meltwater tend to be much more expensive than a program like Sprout Social or Hootsuite, which we find to be generally acceptable for most nonprofit organizations and more affordable as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Well, I have a comment. I'm definitely thank you for this presentation. I'm definitely gonna. I do have a question. So as far as you mentioned nonprofits having like limited budgets for like for marketing and whatnot like that. So I know, do you guys have like on your website or whatnot like that, like different like prices for different like services laid out for us so we can just check it out and say, oh, okay, well, we definitely, would be interested in maybe that monthly newsletter or monthly whatnot like that. Is that something you guys have?
Yeah, great question. And we don't have prices on our website, and I'm happy to explain why. One, we offer a nonprofit discount, so that will be reflected on our website. And number two, rather than offer preset packages and things like that we try to plug people into, instead, we highly customize each and every proposal for every single organization we work with. If you need just one thing, we're going to give you the price for just that one thing. If you need a full-fledged marketing plan, we're going to put all the various pieces of that together and give you a price for that. So we try to serve as many people as we can by really customizing our services for you and then offering a discount to nonprofits instead of having preset packages that we list on our website. But if you're interested, please feel free to email us, and we're happy to give you the inside scoop on any services you may be interested in.
Will do. Thank you, Erica.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had a couple questions in the chat box. The first one was earlier during the conversation about engaging with folks on social media. It was asked, how should you reply to negative comments?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a couple different thoughts here when it comes to negative comments. If it's not obscene, rude, really off color, like using expletives or things that would be very insensitive, and it's just negative, I tend to leave those comments and try to respond in a positive way. Thank you for your opinion, something like that. However, if it's over the top, if it includes expletives, if it's insensitive that may offend someone, or something like that, then I tend to delete those comments. So you kind of have to make a judgment call. Is it really over the line? Does this cross the line into offending people? Is it really untoward? And if so, I would just delete it and not mess with it at all. But if it's just a little bit negative and somebody being grumpy, then I try to turn it around with a positive response.
Awesome, thanks. And on a similar line, we have a question of how do you engage with shares or likes? We comment back when it makes sense to do so, but sometimes we aren't sure how to engage otherwise.
Yeah, great question. So if you have a bunch of people liking your content, obviously you can't respond because that's not a thing. But you can post a comment that simply says, thanks for all the likes, everyone, or something like that, and simply acknowledge the fact that a lot of people have liked your post. Thanks for all the likes, everybody. So that's one way to do that. And then with people sharing your content, you can comment on their shared post and actually thank them for sharing your content when they shared it. So you'd hop on what they shared and say, thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate it. You know, that kind of thing.
Thanks. And then Jen, I saw you unmute for a minute. Did you want to ask a question?
Oh, not so much a question, but just a comment going back to the negative comments. So being a healthcare organization, our comments are often very positive, but those negative comments do bubble up. And so, I created a social media policy, and it outlines who's able to respond to those negative messages. And we try to migrate those kind of conversations off social media ASAP. And the other thing that we do is we have a standard message, and I put that verbiage in the chat function, and there's a specific phone number where those people can call at any day or night to our house supervisors, and that person will either take their message or put them in touch with the right person, so that we can handle those calls quickly and have those conversations off the social media platform as quickly as possible.
I think that's terrific advice, Jen. I really do. And I want to hit upon something that you mentioned, which is having a social media policy. So having a social media policy for a nonprofit organization is so important because it dictates exactly how you deal with not only these kinds of situations like negative comments, but it can also dictate the types of content you share, who in your organization is responsible for responding or dealing with any comments of any kind, what you would do in certain situations when certain things happen. It's very a good idea to create a social media policy for your organization.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Oh, and I muted myself again. Thanks for sharing, Jennifer. We had another question. It asks, any thoughts about TikTok and its rising profile?
Yeah, so TikTok has an extremely young audience, very, very young. So if you're trying to reach people who are in their teens, young teens, like 13 to 18-year-olds, I would say TikTok may be a platform that you want to consider. However, keep in mind that it's a very high maintenance platform. And when I say high maintenance, I mean, it takes a lot of time to manage it because it requires video. So you have to be shooting video for your organization. And a lot of organizations simply don't have the time or bandwidth to deal with constantly creating videos on TikTok that are, even though they're short. So keep in mind the TikTok audience and keep in mind that it's a high maintenance platform. So those are my thoughts.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, TikTok's one that's above my head, so. And we do have another question on, you mentioned that some platforms are expensive. What are the comparative costs of joining various platforms? I think those platforms, I think those were in reference to like Hootsuite and Sendable.
Yeah, so these are for social media monitoring platforms, and the price varies widely. Hootsuite, I believe, has a free option, or there's an option for like $5 a month. It's very, very inexpensive. There are other options on Hootsuite as well, I think, that go up to $30 a month. And Hootsuite not only provides you analytic data on your posts, but it's also a scheduling platform where you can schedule your posts out in advance on social media platforms. So it's not only a place where you can get analytics, but you can schedule your content out in advance, which is a real time saver. Sprout Social is exactly the same thing. You can schedule your content out in advance, and you can get analytics about your social media. Sprout Social is also very inexpensive. It's under $50 a month for most nonprofit organizations for the amount that you would need it for. In comparison, a couple of the other platforms that I was talking about, like Cision and Meltwater, their social media solutions are much more comprehensive, and they're much, much more expensive. I'm talking like $8,000 to $10,000 a year for something like that. So I think it's above what most nonprofit organizations will need. Most of you can probably get what you need out of a platform like Sprout Social or Hootsuite and be just fine and still have the reporting that you need to do things like give a report to the board and things of that nature.
Awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, we use the community foundation. We use what's called Sendable, and it does a lot of stuff like Hootsuite. And I think we pay, I think it's about $160 a year. And it's got like the analytic tools and can do the posting ahead of time, can save drafts of posts and all that kind of stuff, and works really well for us. So I really like being able to do that. And Hootsuite is similar. I like the aspect of Hootsuite in the fact that you can also like engage with some of the social media platforms while on Hootsuite. That's one of the things that's a little bit of a downfall on Sendable is I can't engage with social media on it. But we just like that one better because it was about $100 cheaper. So we were like, all right, we'll go with that one for now.
Yeah, sometimes budget is a real concern when you're working with a nonprofit, so I understand.
Yeah. That's all the questions I see in the chat. So if anyone else has questions right off the bat, you can go ahead and unmute, or you can put it in the chat and I can read it off. If not, I can go ahead. Oh, go for it.
Hi, my name is Lynn. I'm with Stonewall Youth in Olympia. Sorry, my brain is just now like thinking about those like social listening platforms and scheduling platforms. I know in my experience, like especially if like budget is a real issue, depending on the platform, like I think Facebook and Twitter, and even like Instagram now, if you're able to get like the business profile or whatever they call it, their like built-in analytic tools are really great. Facebook still has a scheduler too. It's really annoying that Twitter doesn't really. But just, I don't know, to anyone out there who's like, where like budget is like a huge, huge concern, like you could still get a lot of that data from like the built-in things. It just takes a little more legwork.
Absolutely, Lynn. Thank you so much for mentioning that. It's absolutely true. You know, each of the social media platforms do have their own free analytic data. Sometimes it's not as in-depth as you would get as a platform like Sendable or Hootsuite or Sprout Social, but you can get it nonetheless. Like Lynn said, you might have to do a little bit more legwork and dig through the platforms and find what you need, but it's all there, most of what you would need. And you know, the benefit of some of the platforms like Hootsuite are the ability to schedule in advance on all social media platforms. Like Lynn said, Facebook does have a built-in pre-scheduler that you can use, but the other platforms do not. And the ability also to engage with your audience directly through that third-party platform.
And I've also, Facebook's like built-in schedulers, like they're like de-featuring it slowly too. Like they're just like, I don't know, that's how social media stuff works, it seems. I'm like guessing that their like business page analytic tools are gonna like become like paywall gated eventually and like that kind of thing. But so I also used to do like social media stuff, like in marketing and stuff for a living before I got into nonprofit. So it's really good to be here, and I really appreciated like the presentation. It's good to get like a refresher and a reminder, especially because I've been like out of the game for a long time, for like 2 years now, and so it's like things change, you know.
Sure.
And my question is that 80-20 split of like self-promotion and not self-promotion. I'm wondering what counts as like self-promoting posts in that. Like, for example, my organization on Facebook, we get a lot of people do like their like birthday fundraisers
Mhm.
for our organization and stuff. Like, and is sharing those fundraisers like considered self-promotion, or is like
Yeah.
promoting our events self-promotion?
Yeah.
Anything related to like us and our organization would fall in
Exactly.
that
I wouldn't
20%.
say
Okay.
anything related, but I would say anything where you're talking about yourself. Anything where you're talking about yourself is self-promotional. But you could share, you know, that non-promotional content. For example, maybe there's an article about youth that was in the Wall Street Journal or New York Times or something like that that you could share. So that would be considered non-promotional. It's related to your organization, but it's not directly talking about yourself. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, cool.
Great.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Ari here from Olympia Community Solar. Erika and Shanae, thanks so much for a great presentation. I'm taking vigorous notes here. Sorry, I'm not on webcam right now. But I also just wanted to add something to nonprofits, and something that I've found has been really useful for me in content creation, and that is using Canva to create the actual content for social media. There's a lot of really great templates, and because we are a nonprofit, we were able to get use of Canva Pro for free. There's a short grant application process. It's very easy to fill out. If you are looking for like a good graphic design space, you can actually organize and create your content within a calendar, so you know when to post things. So if you're having trouble figuring out what to post 3 times a day and you want original content, you can plan it all out in a calendar, which I found was really helpful last year for Give Local, especially because we have to promote our page and our campaign in a short amount of time. So definitely check out canva.com if you're not already using it and you need quick graphic design templates and things like that.
Thanks, Ari. We love Canva. We use Canva day in and day out. It is an amazing tool. And you don't need graphic design experience in order to use Canva. Like Ari said, there are amazing thousands and thousands of free templates to use for every single social media platform. All you have to do is type in their search window Facebook post, and it's going to pull you up literally hundreds of Facebook post templates that you can customize with your brand's colors and your images. And they've got lots of images that you can use as well. So it's a fantastic tool. Thank you so much for mentioning that, Ari.
Yeah, and if folks, oh, you want to go ahead and go for it, Jen? I was just going to say, if folks are interested more in wanting to learn a little bit more about Canva, we do have Erika and Shanae had done a presentation a few weeks ago about using Canva and how to utilize that tool. And you can find all of the you can find the recordings, and you can find the materials associated with that on the communityfoundation.com website or spsgives.org under the nonprofit toolkits.
I was just going to add that Canva also does video, and I'm trying to use some of that, but I'm not quite adept yet. But it's kind of interesting that they have so many free tools and so many resources. It really is fabulous for a free program. So,
absolutely. Yeah. In fact, the background that I have on right now, this is a Zoom background that it was made in Canva. I
wow.
used it and just so they even have Zoom backgrounds now, because I know a lot of us are Zooming these days. So you can even create your own Zoom backgrounds, and they've got some great ones for Halloween right now if you want to get kind of festive and whatnot. I have a really cool one that I've been using, that the background is a Ouija board, kind of spooky for Halloween, on some more casual Zoom conversations I've been having. And I see Melissa is rocking their spooky library.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you can get those in Canva too.
And we did have some people commenting in the chat box with, encouraging folks it's really important that everyone, that we as a community, make sure that we support each other in various different ways. And a good way is it also building social media, especially organically, is sharing your social media tags with each other while we're in these spaces. And I do actually, from an earlier workshop that we had done, I put together a Excel document, or no, I think it's a Word document that has different various folks who are willing to, like share their social media platforms. And so if you want to be added to that list, you can go ahead and plug in your organization's social media information here in the chat, and I will add that to the list, and I will send that list out with the follow-up email that has all the materials for this. So folks can go ahead and, get a hold of each other, support each other, like, share, all that kind of fun stuff, because what better way to make sure that we can, be a community than, support one another, especially fits in with that 80%, 80-20. What's the word that you used, Erika? The
20 rule.
The what?
The 80-20 rule.
80-20 rule. There you go. Yeah. So using that 80-20 rule, yeah, we can definitely go ahead and share all that, and so can fit into that.
And for those of you that are posting your social media platforms in the chat right now, and you want to follow the other organizations that have posted theirs, you might not have a chance to get all of them before this workshop is over. So you can save the chat if you'd like to. Just open the chat, and then in the bottom right-hand corner, there are 3 little dots. And then the top button that is there under the 3 little dots says Save Chat. Save Chat. And you can save the chat to your computer, and that way you'll have everybody's social media platforms in perpetuity, and you can get to them as you can.
I have a question, if you're still doing Q&A. Hi, I'm from Sunnyvale Community Services. One thing for Facebook's platform, what's the best way to, I guess, attract a wider audience aside from your immediate followers? I'm not sure if hashtags work the same on Facebook as it does on Twitter.
Yeah, great question. They don't work exactly the same on Facebook, but hashtags are still good to use on Facebook. We recommend using 2 to 3 hashtags per post on Facebook. And when you start to type in a hashtag on Facebook, Facebook will actually pull up hashtags that you're typing and let you know how many times it's been used on the platform. And so if you can find ones related to your nonprofit that are being used more frequently and have a high usage rate, you know that those ones are going to be more valuable and will give you more visibility. And the other thing that you can do to raise your organic reach on Facebook is to boost your posts. So you can choose a strategic post, maybe 1 or 2 a week, and make those promotional posts that you're going to boost that are about your organization. Maybe they can be a compelling story about someone you helped, or maybe it can be about an event that your nonprofit is having. And you can boost that for a very low amount of money, say anywhere from $5 to $25, and run it for 4 days at least, and do it to a customized audience. One of the nice things about Facebook is you can highly target a custom audience. You can target people by age, demographics, gender, education, location, all of these different factors. And by building a target audience and then boosting a post to that target audience, it's a great way to really affordably raise your organic reach, get new likes to your page, and get a lot of engagement.
Great, thanks so much.
Yeah, you bet.
And on the affordability part of like the Facebook boost is one thing that we like to do is, if you don't boost anything for a little bit, Facebook wants you to keep boosting. So they will send you like free money essentially to boost something. They'll give you like $5 or $10, trying to get you back into it. So if you don't boost for a little bit, they'll start, sending you messages saying like, hey, like you should, like boost your you could boost this post. Here's some money to go ahead and do that. So during our off season, because we do most of our boosting during like event seasons, like Give Local, and when we've done like our golf tournament and stuff in the past. So when we're in between those sections, they start sending us messages saying like, hey, you should boost post and here's some money to do that. So if there are times of the year when you're, maybe don't have the money to spend on that, you just kind of watch for those messages and then use it because it's there.
Nice.
Yeah, and we do have another comment or another question in the chat. Says, our videos are super cute and relevant, but not performing well. What might we be doing wrong, such as wrong hashtags? We've even boosted.
I would have a couple of questions back. I would want to know what platform you're sharing the videos on and how long the videos are. Length is a big factor when it comes to videos on social media. They really need to be a minute or shorter. If they're over a minute, they're going to get cut off on a lot of social media platforms and the entire video won't show. And so that's one thing to really consider, is shorter is better when it comes to videos. Nobody's going to watch a 3 to 5 minute video on Facebook. That's just not going to happen. So again, keep it really, really short, under 60 seconds. And then yes, definitely using hashtags, especially depending on the platform you're using the videos on. If it's on Instagram, you really need to use 25 to 30 hashtags every single time you post, without fail. It will by far get your post the most visibility. And you want to be using high value hashtags. And when I say high value hashtags, I mean ones that are commonly used and that are getting a lot of traction. So by using a tool like I think it's all-hashtags.com, which is a free tool, it will tell you, how often a hashtag is used. And you can also find out on most social media platforms. Like if you go to Instagram, for example, and type in a hashtag up in their search function, it'll tell you how many times that hashtag is being used. We don't like to use hashtags unless they're getting a minimum of 25,000 or more uses on social media. So the more you can use, especially if it's in the tens to hundreds or millions of uses, the better for hashtags.
I have a question, continuing the video one. Let's say you already have a video, it's already been put together, and it's over 60 seconds. It's like, 3 to 5 minutes long. Is there a way to like shorten it and maybe allow people to, if they're interested in watching the full video, to click on it?
You could
view it on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, you could certainly post the video and just know that the likelihood of people watching the full thing is unlikely, and that they can always click through to go to YouTube if they want more. You can always get the video edited to a shorter version, or maybe it's just a little teaser, like 15 to 20 seconds, and then you post the shorter like trailer, if you will, and provide a link to YouTube where people can see the full video. That's another option.
Thanks.
Is there like a video editing tool that you would recommend, Erika, that folks use for?
Yeah, Adobe Spark is great. It's they've got a free version that does have their branding in it at the end. A little slide will pop up that said made by Adobe Spark. But if you don't want their branding in it and you want to be able to put your own logo and brand it yourself, it's really inexpensive. I think it's something ridiculous like $5 a month or something like that. And it's a very easy tool to use. You don't need a lot of professional video editing experience. And again, that's Adobe Spark, and you can easily find it online with a Google search. It's a very simple tool to use. For those of you that may have Macs, there's iMovie, there's also for PCs Final Cut Pro, and what's the other Adobe video program? Shanae, what's the other Adobe video program?
Premiere.
Yes, Premiere, Adobe Premiere. But you really need to have a little more professional video experience to use programs like that. So if video is not your thing and you don't have a lot of experience, I would definitely say Adobe Spark.
Awesome. Yeah, and it looks like we got a couple of follow-up comments. You know, people, someone recommended the Thurston County Media is great for help. I went ahead and posted the links to the Adobe Spark website as well as the Final Cut Pro. And there's also the hashtag.com, allhashtag.com. We did have one more question in there, and it says, when posting a video, Facebook always wants us to have a longer video. Why is that?
That's a good question. I mean, the rule of thumb, you know, I'm not quite sure what their reason it is by longer, you know, what they mean by longer. I haven't personally seen that, but I can tell you from experience that having videos that are 60 seconds or less, and we usually cut them off at 59 seconds so they won't get cut off, is the optimal time for people to view, for viewing time. You know, if you think of yourself on social media, when was the last time that you watched a 3 to 5 minute video in your Facebook feed? Probably not very often. So your viewers aren't going to do it either. Shorter is always better. I really don't know what Facebook is saying by wanting a longer video, but I do know that on certain social media platforms like Instagram, for example, if your video is longer than 60 seconds, it will literally get cut off and it will not be shown. The rest of it won't be shown. So if you're planning on using video on multiple social media platforms, and if you want to get the most views all the way through your videos, keep it 60 seconds or less.
To add on to what Erica was mentioning before regarding Facebook, one thing I personally know is that Facebook has been trying to get into the video scene more recently. So they have like a live streaming service that they've been trying to promote. And then obviously they have the video sharing built in. So it may be kind of a marketing play on their part to try to start to compete with platforms like YouTube, even though it's not necessarily the best option for Facebook users.
Thanks, Shanae. I appreciate that.
Awesome. And if anyone has any other questions, feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat or unmute yourself. If not, I do have just kind of looking at what some folks put in on their registration for today's workshop. A common question that was kind of popping up was how to use some of the analytical tools for social media. And so what are ways that nonprofits can utilize those analytic tools on like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter? Like what kind of information can they gather from it? And where can they see that information?
Yeah, so that's a great question. That would make a good workshop in and of itself, is to go into the analytics of social media platforms and how you can use all of those. But Shanae deals with the analytic portions a lot more than I do, more frequently, so I'm gonna let her answer that question.
Yeah, so it kind of depends platform to platform how much information you can get. So generally speaking, Facebook is a platform where you can get the most in depth. They also have the option to export your Facebook analytic data into an Excel file, which is really helpful if you're trying to look at a lot of data at one time. So for Facebook specifically, you can get information about your post reach. You can get information about like where your audience is located, audience demographics. You can get information about not only how your posts are performing, but kind of what time of day they're being seen, which is what's really helpful for determining when you should be posting, what kind of posts you should be putting up, so the kind of content you're sharing. And then for platforms like, well, I guess specifically for Instagram, their built-in analytics is a lot less extensive, and they're also not as good about it offering information over a period of time. So for Facebook, they have functionality where you can go back for over a year, basically as long as your profile has existed, and get analytic data. Whereas Instagram, it's just short periods of time, and they do not log that for you. So it's basically a week at a time where you can go in and see how your posts are performing, kind of follower data, so whether people have followed you or if they've unfollowed you. And then after that week period is over, you're going to have to go in and if you go back in and look for more data, it's not going to be there anymore. So it's basically just a rolling week period where you can get that data. So for Instagram specifically, I always recommend going in and pulling that data, you know, at a week at a time, same day of the week, same time, and then logging it offline for yourself so you can keep an eye on that data over time. Whereas, like I said, for Facebook, they log that for you and you can go back and look at it. For LinkedIn, it's mostly insights regarding your visitors. So, like which day of the month you had the most visitors. They also have user demographic data. So, because it's such a professionally targeted platform, they have data about your followers' occupations and what industry they're in. So that's really helpful for seeing like which professional industries are most interested in maybe partnering with you or getting information like that. Twitter is more similar to Facebook, where you can get data from like years past really easily, and they do a monthly summary that's really helpful where they say, you know, this is how much post reach you've had over the last 30 days. This is how many followers you had. This is how many post mentions you had. This is how many people checked out your profile. And they do a nice little summary at the end of every month. And you can go back and look at those summaries for basically as long as your profile has existed. So yeah, those are the 4 that we've covered today. And I would say the best use of that data is just to see your progress over time. And like I said, for Facebook, it's all there as long as you need it, so you can go in and take a look anytime. But for something like Facebook, you really need to be logging that manually yourself so that you can keep track of it.
Awesome. Thanks, Shanae.
Awesome. And we have a few minutes left. If folks have any other last minute questions or comments, feel free to unmute or put it in the chat. If not, I have one more prompt to ask. So I was just going to say we do have a lot of folks who are participating today who are also a part of Give Local, as well as folks who are doing a lot of other, organizational fundraising efforts, individually. They have end of the year campaigns coming up. What are some of the best ways that you would say to have folks use social media for fundraising purposes? So like promoting their fundraising events.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of fundraising for nonprofits on social media. And the one thing that I would recommend is tug on the heartstrings of your followers. Tug on their heartstrings. Make your posts emotional. Let people know exactly how you are helping your community. What are you doing? Your $5 donation will help us serve 3 meals today. Or give some specifics and let people know where their money is going to go and how small amounts of money can help. Because a lot of people think that you've got to get $100, $200, $500 donations, and you can really get a lot of smaller donations that are really meaningful as well and add up, especially with Gen Z and the millennial community that are very much into giving and philanthropy. And I find that an emotional appeal works the best. So let people know exactly how you're helping your community. Give some examples of what a donation will do and how far it will go, and tug on those heartstrings.
To add on to that really quickly, one thing I would recommend is making sure that if you have a specific campaign, so for instance, if you're trying to raise, $5,000 for a specific purpose, not only should you frequently give updates about that, so like once a week say, this is the progress we've made, this is how much further we need to go, And this is how you can get involved, but also make sure that your branding is the same for that entire campaign. So if for that particular campaign you have a specific kind of face of the campaign, so a specific photo or something like that, use that photo throughout your social media strategy. So by making sure that all of your branding is the same, so similar photos, similar colors, similar graphic style, it will catch people's attention more than if your posts all look different. And people get really invested in things like if there's a specific goal in mind. So by giving those updates, someone who maybe already gave a little bit, if they see, you know, we're $150 away, we're almost there, we have 24 hours left in this campaign, they might be more willing to, you know, give a little bit more if they see those updates and see how progress has been made over time.
Great advice, Shanae. Thanks.
Thanks so much for both of you for being here today. It's been great. It's been wonderful having you over the last couple of months and the various workshops that we've gotten to do. If you all would like to go back Shanae, if you want to go back to the last slide so people know where to find you all at and how to contact you. I will also be including this information in the email that I send out. So folks want to go ahead and maybe have a consultation with Erika. If they want to, you know, learn more ways on how to, you know, improve social media work for your own organization, going on to the blog posts and checking all those out. And I am super excited that everyone got to come here today and attended and participated. It was fantastic to see all of your faces. And I hope that we get to do this again soon. We will obviously feel free to message me if you have other ideas for workshops in the future. And I hope that everyone else has a great rest of the day. Any final comments from Erika or Shanae?
Just thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure chatting with all of you today. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me and Shanae via email if you have questions about your specific nonprofit organization and how we might be able to answer those. And then also just a reminder to really take advantage of our blog. You can find it on our website. There are literally thousands of articles there about marketing, about public relations, about media relations, about social media, graphic design, almost anything you could possibly imagine related to marketing and PR or web design that are really, really helpful, and it's free. So it's a great free resource. I encourage you to use it, and hopefully we'll be talking to some of you soon.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And I will hopefully see all you soon.
Thanks so much, everybody. Happy Halloween.
Take care.
Yes, happy Halloween.
Bye.